Hi, everybody. Greetings. Welcome to today's CAFETA webinar. We are coming to you live on February 10th, 2026. If any of you have yet to view an NLC webinar and this is your first time, know that our CAFETA webinars get their name from the Creek word for learning. And today you're going to be learning about developing a high reliability organization from your instructor, Dr. William R. Latchford, who is president of the Native Peacekeeper Consultant Group, LLC. My name is Brooke Warrington. I'm the Training and Development Specialist here at the Native Learning Center. If you could follow along while I read the disclaimer aloud, this webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes, and the material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. We do also have our copyright infringement law printed here. This is just a friendly reminder that the webinar materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws. What you're tuning in for is part of a full series on strategic leadership. And moving forward, if you want to return to this and view any of the past recordings or the recording for this webinar, I do encourage you to check that out, and you can find it in the courses section under strategic leadership. There's a lot of other really good courses in there as well. And when you join us for the next installment, you'll just log in like you did today and click on that green banner that's at the top of the screen. We do tend to ask that you join with listen-only capabilities because we are creating a recording at the same time. Just helps to cut down on audio feedback in the recording. But if you did join and your mic is on, not a problem. You can always mute yourself. And then if you find your sound is coming out of the wrong device, you can come down to the bottom of your screen. If you joined with your mic on, you'll see a telephone. If you joined with yourself muted, then you will see a headset icon. But either way, you can click on that and get a list of your speaker devices, and then you can select the proper audio output for what you're trying to listen through. Even though we ask that you join on mute, we do still, of course, encourage class participation. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear your comments. If there's any tech support issues that I could help you navigate through, we are going to rely on the public chat primarily for all of the above. So if you don't have yours open yet, you can come over to the messages column. It's gray to the left-hand side of your screen. If you click on public chat, it'll open up a chat happening between you, the other attendees, me, the NLC staff, as well as your instructor, Dr. Latchford. You'll come down here to the box that says send message to public chat and click in that, and then type whatever you want to say or ask, and then you can hit enter, or you can always click on the little paper airplane button, and that will submit it where all of us can see. There is a bunch of helpful links for you in the shared notes section, things like the webinar feedback survey, a link to a PDF of the slides. That link is also in the chat for you today, as well as a link to go to our YouTube channel, just different things like that. I'll bring it up again near the end of the webinar when I'm doing the outro. As I said before, if you did join with your mic on and you're not muted, you can always come down here to mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon. And if you maybe asked something or said something in the chat that you think we missed along the way, you could use that hand raise feature that's all the way to the bottom right. We'd love if you got the chat going together by letting us know who all is present in the webinar. It's always helpful for the instructor as well as for us, the NLC staff. You could let us know your name, where you're tuning in from. It's always great to see all the different tribal nations that are represented in today's webinar. Your work or your role in Indian country that might have led you to the webinar directly. And then your tribal affiliation, if you have one. You might be a tribal employee and you do not have your own affiliation. That's okay too. You are also welcome. No worries there. Then I just have a quick final note while y'all are introducing yourselves in the chat. We do want to try our best to avoid clicking on that red menu column that's all the way to the left-hand side of your screen. Yours might just be icons if you don't have it expanded like I do in the photo. But just know that if you click on that, it doesn't give you a warning. It does just pull you right out of the webinar and take you to whatever you had selected on the menu. You can always just rejoin by clicking on the green banner once again, but I just want to give you a heads up just in case. All right, y'all, while you're continuing to introduce yourselves in the chat, it is with great pleasure that I introduce your webinar instructor, Dr. William R. Latchford. And Will, I have made you presenter now.
All right, thank you, Brooke. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, one of many in the series of Leadership, Strategic Growth, and Innovation webinar series that's hosted by the Native Learning Center within the fiscal year 25 and 26. Please excuse my voice this afternoon. I've come down with a little bit of a head cold, but it's not preventing me from doing anything or accomplishing my goals. So I apologize if my voice sounds a little scratchy this afternoon. This is a slide with all the different titles of courses that we're going to be doing and hosting with Native Learning Center over the next 8 to 9 months. This series is put together as a concurrent to just help you develop your personal leadership development plan. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of hone in on some of the skills that we may not have been trained on or put in a position to give that knowledge and skill and ability to us when we got promoted. So Native Learning Center has put a great system together to be able to present to all of us some webinars that regards to enhancing our leadership training. So we hope over the next 9 months you'll be able to jump on, and if not, as Brooke indicated, you can go back and watch the recordings. So this afternoon's webinar, we're going to talk about developing a high reliability organization for tribal housing. And basically what that is establishing a culture of operational trust, right? As a tribal housing, your goal and your mission is about building trust amongst the individuals that live in your community, the service population that you serve. And so developing a high reliability organization should be paramount regardless of what community that you're in. Now, as we look at developing a high reliability organization, we want to set a standard. We want to set a standard that gives us the opportunity to reach our goals, but exceed our goals while providing a high level of service, not only to our employees as leaders, but also the community. So under that theory, we want to adopt the mentality that failure is not an option when it comes to developing a high reliability organization. And when we look at developing a high reliability organization, we want to talk about an organization that operates in the environment where mistakes carry severe consequences, yet failures are extremely rare, right? It's where mistakes carry severe consequences, yet failure is extremely rare. We also want to set the tone that classic examples that are similar to what we want to accomplish would be in the professions of air traffic controllers, where thousands of aircrafts, just imagine right now as I'm speaking and you're sitting in your office or in your car listening to this webinar, there's thousands of aircrafts on the move around the globe, and they're sharing the airspace every day with near perfect safety, right? There's nuclear power plants out there which manage hazardous systems where even small errors could be catastrophic to the communities that surround those power plants. And there's aircraft carriers out in the ocean where high-risk operations happen continuously in unpredictable conditions. What these organizations have in common is not technology alone. It's not driven by technology. It's how they think, how they communicate, and what makes them make decisions under the pressure. High reliability organizations assume the risk is always present, that the risk is always present. It's at the forefront of us. They do not rely on luck. They don't rely on heroics from individuals or just individual talent. They build a system in an organization that anticipates failure. It catches the problems early. It catches the problems, identifies the problems before they occur, and adapts quickly when something unexpected is about to occur. So you're always forecasting, you're always thinking ahead, and you're always evaluating. You're on constant evaluation of your organization, from your staff to the community that you're serving, from policies to procedures. You're always evaluating how things are going, from the good, bad, and the ugly. These organizations don't aim to be perfect. You don't want to strive to be perfect. What you're aiming for is a consistent performance of imperfection conditions, right? You want that consistency of doing the job right. You're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable that you will make mistakes. Your staff will make mistakes. The key is, how do you identify those mistakes coming? Can you catch them before they're made? And if they are made, What are you going to do to fix them, to prevent them and mitigate them from happening again? Tribal housing authorities may not look like air traffic control towers or nuclear facilities, but you operate in a very complex and similar complexity. You have multiple funding streams. You have regulatory oversights. You have aging infrastructures within your tribal communities. Your environments are always at risk of different environmental issues. You have staffing constraints. You may not have the manpower that you think you need or that you do need. And you're constantly serving expectations of a community that may be have higher expectations that you can ever meet, or you're just having constant service meeting those expectations. The difference is that in tribal housing settings, the consequences of failure result in human and cultural environment, right? That impacts the human and the cultural placement of your location. It displaces families. Elders become at risk, from a housing standpoint. The health environment, health outcomes are affected depending on your housing environment, the mold, different health outcomes that you're dealing with in your community. And just basically the community stability is disrupted when it comes to those failures that happen to us every day. Developing high reliability in housing operations means building an organization. You as a leader, you want to build an organization that continues to serve its people even during disruptions. You want to anticipate the disruptions. You want to build an organization that serves the community during those disruptions rather than reacting after the damage has already been created. Once the damage is created, we go into crisis mode. We don't want to be in that setting. We want to deal with the issues before it becomes a crisis. Today's webinar, we're going to look at a couple of different things. It's not about copying systems used by high-risk industries. It's about adapting principles that they use, that they anticipate, that they're anticipating, they're aware of it, they're resilient. They're resilient in everything they do, and they respect the expertise that's in the environment. And to the realities of tribal operations, you fit the same mold as these industries. Throughout today's sessions, we'll explore how these principles translate into everyday decisions, maintaining maintenance practices, leadership behaviors, and cultural norms that strengthen the trust and the continuity within your community. The goal today is just one thing. It's to develop and assist you in just triggering something inside you to focus on the high reliability organization as a leader, and that can be simple and powerful for your community. You want to ensure that your housing systems do not fail the people who depend on them. Your jobs are hard, your jobs are difficult, but a lot of people depend on you, especially when conditions get worse. Again, I talked about earlier, it's not about being perfect. It's about being an organization, being leaders that are proficient in anticipating, identifying awareness, visualizing what's happening and what's going to happen in the future, and recovering in everything that you do within your environment. Some of the core characteristics I just want to go over in the introduction here when it comes to the high reliability organizations are preoccupation with failure. We want to focus on the constant attention to small areas. If we're screwing up on the small things, when the big things happen, we're going to have a challenge on solving those big things. So we want to have constant attention on small errors or near misses, weak signals before they escalate into major problems. This is not micromanaging, so don't confuse the two. Micromanaging is something you don't want to do, but you want to focus on those small things so your direction and your culture within your organization is focusing on those small areas that you can refine and do better. Another characteristic that you want to look at is reluctancy to simplifying interpretations. You want to recognize that complex systems rarely fail for a single reason. Leaders seek multiple perspectives and deep analysis. Usually when we fail, we don't fail at that moment. The failure, if we go back, we can kind of look at when we started to go down that path where we were going to fail. We don't fail right at that moment. It leads up to failure based on our actions, based on our behaviors, based on maybe the policies that we have in place, right? We may create a policy today that seems successful, but as we go along, if we're not evaluating that policy, and when we have to implement that policy, it may not be that right policy at the time from when the time we created it. Another characteristic is sensitive to operations. We want to be continuously aware as leaders of real-time conditions on the front line, not just what reports or policies say should be happening. We want to be real. We don't want to live in a bubble or a silo where it's black and white. We know the law, and we know when we put a policy on the computer and we print it out, it's black and white. The reality is the community is gray. Everything we do is not black and white. We don't want to live in that black and white world. We want to live in the gray world. So we want to be aware of the real-time conditions that are happening in our environment as leaders. We want to be committed to resiliency. We want to have the ability to detect, to contain, to recover from, and learn from disruptions rather than focusing on just only on prevention. We need to train ourselves up, and we need to find those avenues so we can detect, contain, recover from, and learn from those disruptions that happen to us every day. I know many of you on this call, you have a plan when you come to work every morning. And when you get to work, everything that you wanted to do that day gets hijacked because of something that is disrupting your environment. We need to learn how to detect those things when they're coming at us so we can contain them and so we can accomplish and stay focused on our mission. Deference to expertise, right? Decision-making authority shifts to those with the most relevant knowledge, regardless of the rank or title. As leaders, we need to recognize we're not going to have all the answers. We need to recognize people down at the bottom, the boots on the ground, may have an answer or even a half an answer that can help develop a solution to make our program better. We need to be able to, as leaders, we need to be able to recognize from the bottom of the organization to the top where those decision-making authorities can be led to and how low those decisions can be made. Build up your staff so they have the confidence in themselves to make those decisions at the lowest level. Supporting organizational characteristics, we want to have a strong reporting culture within our program as leaders. You want the staff to feel that it's safe to report errors. You know, it's safe to come out and speak about what concerns they have without a fear of being blamed or retaliatory against, right? We have a culture or an environment, a society that likes to point fingers. We don't want our staff to live in that environment. We need to get away from that type of thought process and go into a problem-solving process where we give the staff the opportunity to have that free discussion without blame, without fear of getting in trouble or being barked at because they're giving some input to make the organization or the situation better. Psychological safety. We want people who are encouraged to speak up and ask questions and challenge assumptions and be open about it, right? There's nothing wrong with having those candid discussions. And sometimes those are difficult for us as leaders to have those candid discussions and allow people to really speak out, even if they have a different opinion. Clear roles and expectations. We want everyone to understand that their responsibilities and the decision-making authority and the escalation of pathways of that authority is open for them. We want them to understand that entire process. We want to standardize, but we want to be flexible. We want to have clear procedures that exist, but we want to make sure staff is empowered to bring forward if our standards need to change or if they need to improve. We want them to be able to speak out and have the ability to assist us as leaders to change the conditions that we're in. And continuous learning of orientation, right? We want to have an environment, we want to have an organization that is a learning organization. We want to have it to where mistakes and disruptions are treating as learning opportunities, not necessarily a discipline opportunity. We don't want failures to be part of our character. We want to make sure that if we do have a mistake or we do fail, it's a learning opportunity for us. It's not a punishment. Redundancy and backup systems. Critical functions have safeguards and alternatives to prevent single point of failures. Sometimes we get locked in as leaders as systems control people. The reality is people should control the system. The system is there to support the mission, and the mission is being developed and driven by the human. So you want to make sure that the system is not driving the human, that the human is using the system as a tool to better the environment. Effective communication practices. We want to have information that's shared, that's clear, it's quickly transposed to us and to our employees and to the community, and it's consistent across all levels of our organization. Leadership is about committing to reliability. We must model reliability behaviors and allocate resources to sustain that type of environment. Decisions account for how actions in one area affect the entire entire organization. One decision can have a negative effect on the organization, and we're only as good as our last contact that we make in the community. We want to align between our culture and our community and our mission. We want all of that aligned in one. We want it to be able to sync together and operate, cohabitate in the environment. Reliability practices reinforce an organizational values rather than conflicting with them. We need to understand that all the education that we have, all the training that we get, it's going to conflict sometimes with the community culture. And as our job as leaders to take those two environments or those two worlds and see how they can come together without breaching or violating our culture or our values or our training that we have, that we know what's going to work right. Every topic is not going to be able to be painted with the same brush to be successful in every community. We need to take what we learn from an education standpoint, from the training standpoint, and those values that we have, and we need to try and fit them within the culture and the community that we work in. It can be done. Over my career of 30 years, I've done it. I've seen it happen. I've seen many people do that. You just have to be open to it. You have to have the resiliency and the drive and the push to be different. You have to have the drive to be different than what the book says or what the training that you went to says. The training in the book are good, but that training in that book was developed as a general guide for us to use, a tool to use, to bring back to our communities, to work together, to build a high reliability organization within our community that we serve. High reliability organizations expect things to go wrong, right? We anticipate things are going to go wrong, and that's okay because things happen in life. Things happen in our organization. We notice problems earlier before they become bigger problems. We listen to our staff. We listen to the community. We listen to everybody who has an impact in our environment before we make that final decision. We recover quick in a high reliability organization. We recover quick when we're pushed down or we're pushed aside or we're disrupted. And we learn constantly. Again, a learning organization. And we never rely on luck or heroics. So as we travel through today, I just want you to think about your organization, and is it forecasting? Are you looking to the future? Are you determining, are you forecasting? Are you determining what tomorrow looks like? What next week looks like, right? Or are you in crisis for the moment? And I know sometimes we get in that crisis for the moment because we have a lot of stuff that is thrown at us. But as we go through this today, I want you to remember you're valued. Somebody saw something in you to be in the position that you hold. And what they saw in you was special. They saw something in you that they saw that you can make a difference within the environment that you're in. So as you go through today, I want you to take that confidence that somebody saw in you to give you the opportunity to be in the current position that you hold. And I want you to carry that forward with you as we progress and we discuss about developing a high reliability organization and being a leader that can lead high reliability organizations, and building an organization, again, that is going to establish a culture of operational trust within tribal housing. And I will go back to, somebody saw something special in you as a leader or in the position that you hold to make a difference. And we have to honor that every day. I'm honored to be your instructor today. My name is Will Latchford. I'm a retired public safety official who started my career over 32 years ago with the Seminole Tribe of Florida as a police officer. I started over 32 years ago, and I had the fortunate opportunity for the Seminole Tribe to give me that opportunity to raise through the ranks and retire as the executive director of public safety. It'll be 3 years in April of this year. Over my career, I was able to work and really learn from everybody that I came in contact with, and really take that and develop that in this course that I'm building, that I built for you today. I have a doctorate in criminology leadership. My bachelor's is in public administration, and my master's is in criminal justice and homeland security. And those titles and that education is really good, but it's really not that titles that, or those education topics that make who I am. What makes who I am is the work that I do. How am I applying that to my everyday work? How am I applying that to the people that I come in contact with? And that's what we do from a service oriented individual as yourselves. You're valued in your community. I've learned from the standpoint of working with tribal housing that you are a necessity within a community. And your job and function that you do is paramount to the success. Public safety is one aspect of it, but equally as important is tribal housing. And for a community to be successful, I learned throughout my career of over 32 years that a community cannot be successful with programs working in silos. So I thank you on behalf of my career and the people that I've worked with over the years and worked with many of the tribes throughout the country from a tribal housing standpoint during crises. I want to thank you for that relationship and those opportunities to work together if we're familiar with each other. Native Peacekeeper Consultant Group is a consultant group that travels around the country to include Canada to deliver comprehensive training, professional development, and consultation to just enhance programs. It's owned by Amy Osceola Latchford, who's a member of the Seminole Tribe of Florida and of the Otter Clan. Her whole mission with this organization is to give back to any community that sees the need, that they can enhance their worth to provide a better service to the people they serve. And I think that's why we're all in this position, right? If you go back to where you started your career in housing, you're going to find that your answer in your interview goes back to just wanting to help people. And that's what our organization is about at Native Peacekeeper Consulting Group. As I go through today, I just want to go over this. I shouldn't say anything that's going to contradict your policies. But if I do, I just want you to remember your policies are important for the tribe that you work for. And if I say something that's contradictory today, it's not by purpose. However, I guide you back to your current policy and follow that policy unless you have to change your policy. Policies are important. They protect you. They protect your organization. However, policies may need to change. So as we go through discussions today, again, I shouldn't say anything that contradicts policy. However, if I do unintentionally, please refer back to your policy. Course overview. Today we're going to go over the challenge of what tribal housing faces when it comes to funding uncertainties, the changing regulatory requirements that you have, when it comes to the maintenance backlogs, the work that you deliver, the disasters that come upon you, right? We just are towards the end of winter, and a lot of your communities are impacted by those nasty storms that went across the country, right? Those are those challenges that you deal with, and you never know when they're going to come up and impact you, right? These challenges they're not episodic, right? They're structural and they're ongoing, right? It's just not a one-off. Right? You deal with storms, you deal with system failures, you deal with the regulatory shift when it comes to politics, right? And it doesn't pause the service that you are obligated to give. When we look at the high reliability solutions, right? Reliability is not a luxury. It's a survival requirement. HRO principles give us a way to keep service stable, even when everything else is unstable, right? Those high reliability solutions give us the opportunity to keep service stable when everything else around us is unstable. The goal is continuity. It's not heroics. It's not being the savior. It's continuity of service. High reliability organizations already exist in environments where failure means loss of life. Tribal housing operates in different contexts, but the stakes are still human. The stakes you deal with are still human. And sometimes it is loss of life. As we look at the learning objectives today, this session is going to build on shared language and shared expectations, right? We want you to leave this afternoon's webinar with both conceptual understanding and actionable tools that you may be able to apply within your community. We want you to emphasize the assessments and applications. We just don't want you to walk away being aware. We want you to understand foundational concepts that include the mindfulness, collective expectations, your cultural integration into the community that you work in. We want you to look at the implementing 5 principles we're going to talk about that govern high reliability organizations within a tribal housing setting. And we want you to walk away with developing skills to assess and improve the reliability of housing programs and your maintenance operations throughout your program. The stakes are high. Critical housing challenges you have and you face every day. Housing shortages, so with some of the research I did, is affected by 68% of tribal communities around the country. That's a high number. Maintenance backlogs exceed national averages of 47%. Vulnerability to natural disasters with 43% of tribal housing in high-risk zones, right? Funding gaps average 35% of operational needs, right? The consequences of failure. When tribal housing authorities experience operational failure, the results can be devastating. Families are displaced. Health outcomes are compromised. Cultural continuity is threatened, right? Your community gets threatened, and they have to live a different way that they're normally living. Unlike businesses that can temporarily close, housing services must continue without any service interruptions. And your customers have a high expectations. It doesn't matter what's happening in your program. They still expect you to deliver that service. High reliability principles offer a pathway to maintain service continuity even during crises, ensuring tribal members maintain access to safe quality housing regardless of your circumstance. As we look at what is a high reliability organization, high reliability organizations operate in complex high risk environments, yet you maintain the exceptional safety records and operational effectiveness. You achieve through a systematic approach to anticipate and manage those unexpected events. You deal with complex operations. You manage the intricacies and interdependent systems where failures can cascade rapidly, similar to how tribal housing authorities coordinate multiple programs, funding streams, and stakeholder relationships. You're juggling a lot of balls every day that you come to work. The failure intolerance. Failure in a high reliability organization is not an option. We don't accept failure in this type of environment. Just as housing authorities cannot permit system breakdowns that leave community members without shelter or essential services, right? You will not allow people to have essential services. Continuous adaptation. right? HRO maintains flexibility. We're always flexible to adhering to we want to adhere to strict protocols. We want to balance that standard and even raise that standard when we have to. But we want to be able to adjust and respond to unique situations when it's critical and when they're upon us. Reliability is built into systems, and it's not dependent on just one person. Traditional high reliability organizations, like I talked about before, these industries succeed because they assume risk in everything that they do. They assume that risk is present in everything that they do. Air traffic controllers, hospital operations, nuclear power plants, everything that they do, they have risk on their mind. They're not afraid of it. It's not working through fear. Safety is managed through discipline, redundancy, and communication, not fear. It translates into a mindset, not a machine, a mindset. It becomes a behavior for the employees when you have a high reliability organization. Tribal housing authorities, high reliability organizations already share a core characteristic. You have cultural responsibilities that make reliability more important, not less. You have sovereignty that adds flexibility and responsibility. Tribal housing authorities, you face distinct challenges, including cultural integration requirements, sovereign governance considerations, which are constantly changing and evolving, remote locations that affect resource availability. These factors make reliability even more critical when creating and implementing the complexities of the high reliability organization. Despite these differences, the core principles of high reliability organizations can be adapted effectively to strengthen your housing programs to better serve your community. When we look at the organizational mindfulness, mindfulness is an organizational context, which means it's maintaining that constant awareness of operation. This is the mindset of a leader that you want to have. You want to be aware of all the operations that are happening. You want to have a pulse on what's happening internally in your program and externally within your community. You want to be able to identify and forecast potential threats or changing conditions. Staff at all levels remain alert to changes in housing conditions, right? Your work from as a leader is to ensure that everybody in your organization takes ownership, regardless of what rank or level that they are at in the organization. Mindfulness here means collective situation awareness. You want to build a culture, an organizational culture within your program that is going to provide you and your employees an opportunity to have a collective situational awareness program. Everyone is responsible for all those small changes. Everyone is responsible for the success. We're successful together. We're not successful together. There's no in between. Some of us can't be successful. Some of us cannot be not successful. We're either one or the other together. And as leaders, we need to create that environment so we're all successful. Tribal values naturally support this kind of attentiveness, right? The community ownership theory, as I call it. Unlike anywhere around the country, tribes have a tremendous mindset and a belief and a living, breathing culture that it's about community ownership. The ownership they take and the pride they take in the environment. We need to make sure that we have that same living, breathing mentality behavior within our program. It's about coming together and allowing the information to flow so the community is at the forefront of everything that we do. We want to set clear expectations in a high reliability organization. Reliability collapses when expectations are vague or assumed. I go around the country and I teach leadership and I teach job descriptions, and I ask the question a lot of times, when's the last time you read your job description, or when's the last time that somebody sat with you and went over what's expected of you in the position that you hold? And many a times we fail as leaders because we don't provide that opportunity for individuals, or to individuals, to provide them clear expectations of the position they hold. We don't want to be vague and we don't want to assume. As leaders, we want to make sure we foster an environment where expectations are clear, they're understood, and they're always evolving, and everybody is aware. Clear expectations protect the staff as much as the community that you serve. Just listen to that. Clear expectations that you give your employees not only protect the staff, they protect the residents that you serve. Documentation is about consistency. It's not about control. Sometimes we get into this CYA mentality and we document. I'm not a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in documenting to be consistent. Don't worry about CYA. If you're doing your job the right way, you don't have to worry about the CYA concept. So we want to make sure that our commitment to expectations is at the highest level. And in a high reliability organization, as a leader, you strive to make sure that the expectations are well known within your staff and also the community you serve. So when we look at the 5 principles, the first one is preoccupation with failure, right? Success can breed complacency. High reliability organizations resist the complacency. Complacency creates mistakes. Complacency creates opportunities for the program to fail. Near misses are gifts. They're not embarrassments. We need to be able to identify those areas that we have close calls where we may have done our job. Maybe people didn't see that we didn't do it at the highest level, but we need to be able to recognize when we're not at the highest level of our potential. The question that we should always be asking ourselves is, what almost went wrong? And again, not through fear. It's just an honest assessment. An honest assessment because we want to make sure we don't fail. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can in our power to be successful. And in order for us to know what success is, we have to know what failure is. And if we can identify those areas and always think about what almost went wrong, we're going to find those solutions to always be successful. I put this slide on here as a case study, as an example that you can look at through a high reliability organization. You can use case studies that look at, for example, you can look at the reoccurring emergency calls for water heaters that may be happening within your community, and it's causing the disruption and costly hours, after hour repairs that are making your staff go out and using those manpower hours. And you're reactive to the maintenance that's creating the budget to be overrun, and your residents are not happy with your service. HRR approach could be implement a preoccupation with failure by creating a database tracking water heaters that are aged, their maintenance, their history, their minor performance issues. You want to establish a preventative maintenance program based on early warning signs rather than complete failures. We want to recognize some preventative maintenance, and through case studies, I share with you that you can develop a lot of things and a lot of solutions if you stop the crisis that you're in every day. And when I say crisis you're in every day, I know the work that you do. I appreciate the work that you do that I'm aware of around the country. And you deal with a lot of issues every day. But sometimes we have to sit back and we have to stop the crisis that we're dealing with to give us an opportunity to evaluate the current situation and evaluate through case studies. Collect the data, look at those challenges we're dealing with, and create solutions through that will allow us to develop a high reliability organization. Principle number 2 is reluctance to simplify. High reliability organizations resist the temptation to oversimplify complex situations. You recognize that oversimplification can mask important nuances to lead and to overlook risk. Housing issues rarely have a single cause solution. A lot of your issues that you're dealing with are multifaceted when it comes to solution. Multiple perspectives prevent blind spots. It presents issues that you have to deal with. So you want to embrace that complexity, right? You want to embrace the complexity, but you don't want to be over complexity either. You want to be in a situation where you're developing policies, you're developing procedures, you're developing all these layers to get to that solution. You want to attack the solution. You want to incorporate viewpoints from your maintenance staff. You want to talk to the residents, right? Again, pulling yourself out of the crisis and going out and fact finding, right? Trying to get ahead of the issues that you're dealing with. You want to conduct thorough assessments that capture the nuance factors affecting your program, such as how the cultural practice might impact housing use patterns and maintenance needs. Again, I talked about earlier, it's so important to take the value of the culture that you're in, take the value of the technical expertise that you have as housing, and how do you bring those two worlds together? How do you bring those values that each one share that sometimes contradict? How do you bring them together to fit and coexist in the same environment? And that's what you want to look at from a high reliability organization. From simple solutions to complex understandings. For example, if you have high turnover, the answer isn't always raise the salary, right? Because at the end of the day, if you have high turnover, you're already spending a lot of money because you're hiring new people. So every time somebody leaves, you're starting over. You're already spending more money. Raising wages is not going to be the answer if you have high turnover. Maintenance backlog, hire more staff. That's not the answer all the time. Just because you have high maintenance backlog doesn't mean the answer is hire more staff. That's a simple solution to it. But our job as leaders is to dig a little deeper. It's to dig a little deeper into that high reliability organizational mentality and find out really what the core solution is going to be. And it's difficult. It's difficult to be a leader in the 21st century environment that you're all in. High reliability housing authorities develop systems that map and show interconnection between all the factors. That's what you want to look at. This complexity embraces the approach and it reveals leverage points that simple solutions miss, such high cultural environments, right? Simple solutions are not going to be the answer to your complex situations. So principle number 2 is you want to be reluctant to just taking the easy way out in a high reliability organization. Practical applications in complexity. I talked about it, touched on it a little bit, right? Don't get into a position where you're creating systems upon systems upon systems when you're not really fixing the solutions, you're band-aiding it. Solutions should match the complexity of the problem you're dealing with. Systems mapping helps teams with that interconnection, right? There's nothing wrong with having systems, but make sure they're systems that are working for the final solution, not just a short-term solution. Principle number 3 is sensitivity to operations. High reliability organizations maintain constant awareness of current state of operations, right? That's having your finger on the pulse. You want to gather that real-time information about what's actually happening on the ground, not what just should be happening according to what your plan is. And if you have a structure within housing where you have multiple people in the layers of supervision, where communication is being processed through multiple people, you have to evaluate that as a leader, because as information is being passed along from person to person, either things are being left out, things are being added to, or things aren't even being passed along to you from the very onset. Reports tell you what should be happening. Operations show what really is happening. So you have to look at it from both lenses. You must stay connected to the frontline reality, right? As a leader, don't ever forget where you came from. A lot of times, as you go up in the chain of command, your responsibility comes more and more and more, and you get busier and busier and busier, and the responsibility is very high. Don't ever forget where you came from. Take the opportunity to keep in contact with the people on the front line that are doing the job, because that's going to make your program a lot better off to provide that service to the community, because they see what's happening out there. They need your support as a leader. And small delays today become major failures tomorrow. So when you have an issue that comes up, make sure it's dealt with. Either you're dealing with it or somebody else is dealing with it, and create an environment where individuals know that when small issues that come up, that they're not going to be delayed. You fix it today, because tomorrow, if it's not fixed, it's going to become a bigger issue for you, and it's going to be a failure for tomorrow. I talked a little bit about technology earlier. Again, I'm a big believer that we as humans should be guiding technology. Technology should not guide us. It should enhance our awareness, not replace our judgment. A lot of professions right now, because of AI and the development of AI and the nuances that are happening, are being threatened because AI is encroaching on some professions. I will tell you, plumbers, electricians, the hands-on construction workers that are out there, they are one of the few professions right now that actually have a shield on AI, on fixing things, because they have to have that human interaction. They have to have that human interaction to go out and change parts, use their hands, use devices at different locations. They're different from an office setting. So you want to make sure in your environment, from a high reliability organization, that you identify those areas that technology is enhancing awareness. It's not replacing judgment. The tools must fit the reality, right? The connectivity, staffing, culture. And I know some of you are dealing with issues when it comes to technology and connectivity. Start small and scale to your intentions. That's the only way you deal with technology and you're successful. We want it immediately. We are a society because we can Google right now. We can put in a search and we get it within a snap of a finger. The reality is, good core solutions for tribal housing, you're not going to get it in a snap of a finger. You're not going to get that technology that you want in a snap of a finger. Start small and scale to your intentions. Again, using case studies for operational awareness. You have the opportunity to use case studies when you look at your team. Sit down with your team and ask your team what case studies they think need to be done to get their job more effective, to help them develop solutions when it comes to improving the level of service to your community. Principle number 4 is commitment to resiliency. High reliability organizations develop the capacity to detect, contain, and bounce back from inevitable errors rather than focus solely on prevention. They build systems that can absorb shock and continue focus, right? So many times do we get in a blame game, right? We don't want to get in a blame game. Failures are going to happen. Collapse is an option, right? Failures are going to happen, and they're inevitable. But collapse is optional. Resiliency, and I know the term is thrown around a lot. In my world, resiliency is about absorbing the shock of whatever happens to you. You absorb it, you get yourself under control, and then you recover from it, right? So resiliency is about absorbing the shock and recovering fast. We want to prepare. We want to make sure that we're prepared. So preparation is an act of respect to the people we serve. We serve an honorable community, regardless if you're in tribal housing or public safety or health and human services. Preparation is an act of respect for the community that we serve. So for a high reliability organization, we want to make sure we commit ourselves to resiliency as leaders. When we look at building an organization for resiliency, we look at the technical part of it, and we look at the operational part of it. These are two worlds that are different. We have to take these two worlds that can collide and actually prevent each other from being successful. We want to make sure that we cross-train our staff, right? Just because you're a boss doesn't mean you can't empty the trash, right? We want our staff to understand we're all in it to win it. It's not one person's responsibility to do the job. It's all of our responsibility to do the job. And we want to use our technical resiliency. We want to use the redundancy of our systems. If they fail, how can we get back online quicker? From emergency generators to backup water systems. It all goes hand in hand. Resiliency requires both the technical systems and the organizational capabilities. Tribal housing authorities, we must develop comprehensive emergency plans that address both infrastructure needs and human coordination during crises, with particular attention to cultural appropriate housing solutions. Many times I travel around the country and I listen to tribes and listen to tribal housing, and they leave it up to a certain program, if it's emergency management or public safety. You are an important role in tribal housing, and you need to have your own emergency response plan. You need to have a plan in place that can help the people that you serve. Don't acquiesce and give your authority away to anybody else. Make sure from a tribal housing standpoint that your community and the people you serve are taken care of. And that is paramount in a high reliability organization. Resiliency in practice, again, emergency response. Effective response demonstrates a housing authority's commitment to resilience, right? The capability must be developed before the crisis occurs. Many a times we're dealing with the crisis and we're in crisis ourselves because we're not prepared, right? So we want to prepare, we want to forecast, we want to develop those response plans, we want to train on those response plans. We want to train all the way through the recovery phase, right? We want to train through that process. And then we want to see, as we train on it, we want to see what we can learn from that training, right? And then when the actual event happens and we go through the response phase, because we already have the plan, and then we go through the response phase and the recovery phase. After it's done, we want to do an after action. We want to see what we did great, and maybe what we did not so great. And whatever we did great, we want to improve on. And whatever we did not so great, we want to fix to make sure we do great next time. When we look at principle number 5, high reliability organizations, indifference to expertise. We recognize that expertise is not always correlated with the hierarchy position. During normal operations, especially during crisis, decision-making authority shifts to those with the most relevant knowledge regardless of rank. Many a times in my career, I pulled people off their responsibility because I knew that they had expertise or they had a drive in them that was going to do it better than me, and I assigned them to a task because I knew they could take care of it better than I could. Or I knew, and I put them in positions that they were able to operate and communicate with people because I knew they had a better relationship with a certain area than I did. You want to know every aspect of your hierarchy within your program. Authority should follow knowledge, not titles, right? Listen to that being repeated. Authorities should follow knowledge, not titles. Frontline staff often see the problems first. The question is, do they send it up to the appropriate people so they can get support. Traditional knowledge is operational expertise. When we look at the high liability or reliability of an organization, we want to make sure that we become active listening. We want to listen to understand, not to respond, right? A lot of times we're in a position, especially as leaders, that we listen to respond. So when someone's talking to us, we're already formulating what we're going to say to them. And we're missing a good quality of what they're telling us because our brain is thinking about how we're going to respond. And as soon as they're done talking, we start to talk. We need to train ourselves. We need to train our managers and our supervisors to listen, to understand. Train our staff to seek input from the staff. Train the staff managers and supervisors to seek input from the lowest level and ask those probing questions. Create a psychological safety environment that sharing information is safe and it's contradictory to their perspective. Traditional knowledge is important. Like I talked about earlier, I'm finding more and more areas and I'm seeing more and more that we have to do a better job in every environment of taking the cultural environment and the community that we're serving and trying to figure out how our technical expertise fits into the traditional and the community culture that we're providing that service in. Creating formal roles for knowledge keepers and development processes to document and apply that traditional expertise, right? Because we're taking those two worlds again and we're colliding the business world with a cultural environment. You have an organizational culture and then you have a community culture. There's contradictions. There's parallels that may not meet each other. In a high reliability organization, as leaders, we have to look on how they're going to meet and let's find solutions that can bring the two worlds together and work in harmony and be successful in harmony. Again, we can do that through case studies. We can do that through just sitting back, pulling ourselves out of the crisis and using the expertise within our staff and our programs to help design it. I want you to think about how do we take in the environment that you're in? Just take a moment while you're sitting wherever you're at around the country, and how do you take that cultural value that's within your community and how do you fit that into your housing practice that you deal with every day? Those two worlds that are colliding. Think about that because you are the subject matter expert that has to deal with that. You have the opportunity, right? You have that great opportunity to help bring those two worlds together, and I challenge you to do so. As we look at the organizational culture foundation, when we look at the high reliability organizations, the principles must be embedded in an organizational culture to be effective. Again, this is the organizational culture. It's not the community culture. The culture consists with shared values, assumptions, and behaviors that guide how our work is done, especially when no one's watching. Number one is leadership actions. What leaders prioritize and how they behave, right? You as a leader set the standard. How do you prioritize the mission? And how do you behave when you're directing that mission? Systems and processes, formal structures that reinforce reliability. Do you have systems that aren't even followed? Or do you have systems in place that are followed but are not working? What are you doing about it? Shared knowledge, common understanding of what matters and why. You have a staff that has their own knowledge. and it's shared with you, but it may not be on the same page. You as a leader need to find that understanding and bring your world together with your staff's world. Collective practices. How do you work when it comes to actually performing in a day-to-day environment? And underlying beliefs and values. We all have different beliefs. We all have different values that we bring to our environment. High reliability culture must align with and support the organizational values, the governance, and the traditions while meeting the technical requirements for a safe, effective housing operation. Leadership in a high reliability housing authority. Again, leaders in high reliability organizations create the conditions for operating excellence through your priorities. You want to model that behavior. You want to allocate resources strategically. Sometimes we send our resources out in crisis. We want to stay away from the crisis mentality. We want to stay away from being in that mode of crisis to where we're running and running and running without looking at the impact of the crisis. We want to build reliability systems. We want to establish the organizational structures that support reliability, including reporting systems. Create matrix that can assist us not only with just the day-to-day work, but support our financial goals and our financial objectives. We want our systems to be able to support our budgets. We want our budgets to be reality. We don't want to work in a voodoo budgeting circumstance. We want our matrix to support our needs. We want reality to support our mission. And that will help gain the trust of society and the community we serve. We want to balance the compliance and innovation. We all know we have compliance issues we have to follow, but we don't want to get overzealous and focus on those compliance issues to where they overshadow really the good things that we can do and that service we can provide. We want to create an environment where standardized protocols are followed, they're consistent while still engaging and encouraging improvement and carrying out those compliance requirements. High reliability leadership in action. We want to create psychological safety. Employees will only go so far if they don't feel safe. The belief that one can speak up without fear of punishment and humiliation is essential to high reliability. Leaders must actively cultivate environments where staff at all levels feel safe to report problems, ask questions, give suggestions. We want a framework as a learning environment. We want to emphasize the housing operations involve complexity and uncertainty, making continuous learning essential. We want to acknowledge that even experts face challenges. There's nothing wrong with you as a leader telling your staff that you face challenges every day. Put yourself in your shoes. When you were a frontline person before you became a boss, you wanted your boss to just present themselves as being real and understanding. Give the people that work for you that same opportunity. Invite participation. Get the input of your staff during a high reliability organization. It's so important to get the input of your staff because that's going to create ownership. When they see that their opinion matters and that you're willing to listen to learn, and maybe implement their solution or their advice, they're going to see and they're going to develop that ownership. And we want to respond to productivity. When staff raises concerns or reports problems, we want to respond with appreciation to them. We don't want to be chameleon to them. We don't want to be fake to them. We want to let them know that we appreciate them. We appreciate them taking that step forward to come forward and tell us about those actions or issues they've identified and provide updates that shows that the value of them speaking up is going to make our organization better. When it comes to staffing high reliability organizations, recruitment and selection is paramount. High reliability housing authorities, you need to carefully select with technical skills and reliability oriented mindset, right? Just don't hire to hire. Reliability is a mindset before it's a skill set. Cross-train increases resiliency. Cross-train your employees, and I know a lot of you out there already do this. And training should reflect the real scenarios, not ideal conditions, right? Put them in the bad situations or the situations that they're going to deal with when the crisis happens. When we look at training beyond technical skills, we want to look at not everybody is tech savvy. Not everybody has the opportunity or even wants the opportunity to be behind a computer and learn this 21st century techie way, right? I taught a class yesterday where the entire group were hands-on individuals. They were electricians. They were plumbers. They were construction workers, right? Sitting in a class for 8 hours is not their cup of tea. They're used to being out solving people's problems. I had to develop a mindset with them in that training. So one, they can learn, but two, they can give themselves an opportunity to learn in that environment that they're not used to being in. They work outside. They work with their hands. They work with other people. They're out meeting new people. Sitting in a classroom for 8 hours is not something they're used to. So as a leader, I had to take it beyond their everyday work and put them in a position where they had to use computers. They had to develop skills. They had to system think. They had to use their brains in a different fashion to be successful in yesterday's class. And I built scenarios that they can learn from, but I had to get them to open up and open their minds and develop those skills in the beginning of the class so they were comfortable to learn in that environment. That takes forecasting. It takes you to look at to being beyond just what those technical skills are. You want to measure the reliability, key performance indicators, right? You have an opportunity in housing, and these are just some of them, that you can track indicators when it comes to protective measures or lagging indicators that measure outcomes to assess their performance and identify improvement opportunities, right? So you want to sit back. Again, I use the term crisis because I'm familiar and I see the work that you do. And again, I remind you, it is valued. But there comes a time where being valued, you have to give yourself the opportunity to sit back and create those opportunities so you can measure your successes, that you can measure the opportunities that you have. Matrix gives you the opportunity to guide attention. It puts the attention on things that you can improve without punishing individuals. It leads indicators to help prevent crises, and that visibility of matrix, and to share those matrix with your staff and the community creates an opportunity for a shared responsibility. Comprehensive reliability assessment. Regular system assessments are essential for measuring and improvement reliability of tribal housing authority. Operation assessments, technical assessments, organizational assessments, cultural assessments. When you look at a high reliability organization, these assessments are constant. These are four areas that you can use to evaluate your organization. You can evaluate on a day-to-day basis from your operational assessment. Build out the structure for each assessment. This will help you identify areas of concern or improvement. It will also help you identify the good things that you're doing within your program. And it provides the opportunity to show that the work you're doing is successful. One of the things that I've learned in my career and over my career, and this happens in and a lot of organizations, and I know it happens in tribal housing, is sometimes we forget to celebrate our wins. Sometimes we forget about how good we're doing out there and really that positive impact that we're doing out there. And we forget that positive impact that we're making on people's lives because we tend towards the crisis or we tend towards the negative environment. I challenge all of you, celebrate those wins. Celebrate those opportunities that you have as you navigate your day-to-day environment. And as you're celebrating those wins, you're going to come upon change. You're going to come upon that change that you're going to be faced with within your organization. Because celebrating wins is one thing, but there's other things out there that you have to look at. And one thing I am confident on, and I dealt with throughout my career, and I'm going to continue to deal with it while I'm going around teaching in my environment and the world that I'm in now, is that we as humans like to be in our comfort zone. And our staff needs leaders to help us evolve our comfort zone, which is going to create change. We want to expand our comfort zone. We want to expand our employees' comfort zone. And we want to expand our community's comfort zone, right? So in a high reliability organization, as we build that trust in our staff and in our community, we have common barriers to that change. Perceived conflict with existing practices that we have, right? Sometimes there's tribal practices that we have there's a conflict there. Again, bringing those two worlds together. How can we change? Maybe not change the tribal practice, because that's not going to happen. But maybe we can change how our technical world is being to fit and mold and complement the tribal practice. We want to be concerned about additional workload for staff. The lack of understanding about reliability benefits. Limited resources for implementation. Inconsistent leadership support, right? That's a big one when it comes to change. And resistant to new documentation requirements. Successful implementations of the high reliability organizations requires thoughtful change management. Again, you want to start small. Visible wins that demonstrate clear benefits. That low-hanging fruit. Connect reliability improvements to the values of your community, to the well-being of your community rather than the abstract concepts. Evolve your staff at all levels in designing this change. Let them be a part of it with particular attention to incorporating the perspective of the frontline maintenance and resident service personnel who understand the daily operations of reality. They're out there talking to the people. They have important information that we can use to develop that high reliability organization. Technology solutions for housing, again, it's always changing. It's always evolving. There's different attributes when it comes to technology that are out there. And the one thing that I found in tribal housing is finances, right? When it comes to technology, everything has a shelf life. So we need to forecast that shelf life. If we buy new cameras, we need to make sure that in 5 years we replace those cameras because the technology is moving very fast. And these are those uncontrollables that we have when it comes to technology. Strategic technology implementation can be significant to enhance your reliability capabilities through technology alone is never sufficient without the organizational culture and the processes to support it. So having that budget behind you and the support of the community is important when it comes to being in a high reliability organization and keeping technology at the forefront to support as a tool when it comes to your organization. When you look at implementation technology, you want to consider how that technology is going to impact the sovereignty of the tribe. Data ownership is very important right now, right? Data sovereignty is a big topic that's out there, and it's a misunderstood topic. I've talked to so many people who have different definitions of data sovereignty and the respect of it. And it's going to take that continued communication to get to the real solution of it. But when it comes to technology, even through tribal housing, you have to respect and just forecast the understanding that it's not going to be a quick fix when you implement technology, because there's a lot of areas that you have to focus on. Does the system accommodate the protocols and practices within your tribe? Can it function effectively in remote locations with limited connectivity? And I know a lot of you deal with that limited connectivity. Is the interface accessible to staff with varying technical backgrounds? Do you have a bunch of systems that don't talk to each other? So you have 15 systems that if they could all talk to each other, you would be better off. But you built the house in different times. And so the technology is behind because you have new technology and old technology that just don't interface. Does the vendor really understand what you're trying to capture when it comes to your implementation of technology? Phased implementation is to allow the adaptation and incorporation of traditional knowledge alongside digital systems rather than replacing existing wisdom and technology alone. You want technology, again, to work for you, not against you. As you move forward, I developed a roadmap that you can use, and you'll have this PowerPoint. I think Brooke said you'll have access to the PowerPoint. This is a sample roadmap that you can use. Start the journey toward developing your high reliability organization, which requires a structured approach. And you can start building it within 90 days. Again, pulling yourself out of the crisis. The first 30 days, you want to conduct a baseline reliability assessment. Identify those critical vulnerabilities in your system. Form a steering committee that is diverse and has people on the committee that are just not there as warm bodies. They're there to give you input. They're there to be objective. That they can educate you and the leadership team on what needs to be done to create a high reliability organization. 60-day planning. Develop implementation strategies with clear priorities. Create a matrix dashboard that can track all these issues. Design the initial staff training program. Again, when you create policies, you want to train on those policies. You want to make sure you provide the opportunity to give your staff the opportunity to learn this change and then to be proficient with the policies. You don't want to practice to be perfect. You want to practice and train to make it permanent for your staff. You want that policy to be practiced and then carried out permanently with your staff, knowing that that policy could change and then you redo that process. In the 90-day initial implementation, you can launch preventative maintenance programs. You can begin staff training, reliability principles, implement near-miss reporting systems, right? Track those near misses so you can see where you're at. Track those wins. Track those good things that you're doing, right? You're out there every day. Your staff and you are doing great things out there. Document that down. Put that in a matrix. You want to stay on the positive side of this because in a high reliability organization, sometimes it gets overwhelming to where your mindset can veer off to where you're always thinking negative. You don't want to think negative. You want to balance this out. But by balancing out, you have to look at the good, the bad, the ugly. In the 90 days, you can expand your implementation to additional departments within your program. And you can repeat these steps. Same things with funding. I know you deal with a lot of funding issues and you're looking at different funding avenues that are out there. Think outside the box. I challenge all of you. Don't just do what everybody else is doing. Strive to be that front runner. Strive to be the person everybody wants to follow. Strive to be that organization or that housing program that is the elite, not just for your community, but the elite for Indian country, so you can be that role model that everybody follows. And then one day somebody's going to pass you, and then you can follow somebody else and raise your level of expertise and raise that level of expectation within your community. You want to be sustaining reliability excellence. You want to create a high reliability organization that is not a one-time project. You want this to continue for decades to come. And you want it to continuously evolve. And it's going to require your attention to the cultural environment, the systems environment, and the performance environment. And you can do that by training, continuously refreshing the training, by recognizing the staff, by recognizing the good things that the staff is doing, by recognizing your community and the good things that your community is doing to support your programs, by talking and having storytelling sessions on what's happening in the community and celebrating the kids and the elders and the middle-aged folks in your community and celebrating them and recognizing them to being a one community with your housing program. And then you can establish ongoing oversight mechanisms to where governance is involved, and governance is there to support your program. As we looked at the high reliability organizations today, some of the key takeaways is we want to take the organizational culture, your community culture, and we want to find ways to build that safety, quality, and continuous improvement in both worlds. We want to align those worlds to have reliability principles and values and governance traditions. And we have to work on that, bring those two worlds together. Applying the 5 principles that we discussed, implementing the high reliability principles of preoccupation with failures, reluctancy of simplifying, sensitivity of operations, commitment to resilience, and difference of expertise. We looked at the measures, what matters. We want to establish a clear matrix for housing reliability. We want to track consistently and use data to drive our continuous improvement in the maintenance and operations and everything that we do. As leaders, we want to lead by example. We want to ensure that at all levels, not only at our level at the top or whatever level you're at, that every level demonstrates commitment to reliability through their actions and resources and decision-making and communication priorities. Ownership is everybody's responsibility. And serving the community. Remember that the ultimate purpose of housing reliability is to provide safe, stable homes that support tribal communities, their well-being, and their cultural continuity. By applying these principles consistently, your housing program can achieve a high reliability needed to fulfill your critical mission of providing quality housing services to their community, regardless of the challenges that you may face. I will close by telling you that and sharing with you, you are valued. And you have the opportunity and a great responsibility to make a difference in people's lives. I challenge all of you is to take that responsibility and that heavy weight that's on your shoulders in the position that you have. And every day that you come into work and every person that you make contact with, leave them better than the way you found them. Leave your program better today than you found it this morning when you walk through those doors. And when you walk through tomorrow morning, you're going to find a better program tomorrow morning than you did this morning because you made it better before you went home. And repeat that cycle, not only in your program, but in your community you serve. You are valued, know you are valued, and know you are important. And as a leader, you have an obligation to create a high reliability organization for the community that you serve. My information is in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, email me, or text me or call me on my phone number. I put my cell phone number in the chat. I thank you, and I'm honored to be able to present to you today. I hope you're able to walk away with just some triggers and nuggets that you can take to create yourself as a dynamic leader and create a high reliability organization. Thank you for your time. Brooke, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Hey, thank you so much for another incredible installment into the series, Will. I did put the link to today's webinar feedback survey in the chat for all of you. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes. It is anonymous. It just helps us know what's working and what we can improve upon for the future. But again, it is an anonymous survey. You don't have to worry about your name or email being connected to it. It's just something to help us. We hope you can join us for our next webinar. That's going to be this week on Thursday. This will be Don't Just Write the Grant, Find Your Red Thread and Tell a Story with our instructor, Diane Leonard. We call her the goddess of grants over here at the Native Learning Center. She's the president of D.H. Leonard Consulting and Grant Writing Services. You would just log in like you did today, and that webinar will start at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, or 10 a.m. Alaska, depending on your time zone. You can check out this as well as our other recorded webinars on our YouTube channel. It goes back about 2.5 years now. It's a really great resource. YouTube is free for all of us to use. So I encourage you to check out everything that's in that archive. And if you do ever need help finding something specific, you can always shoot me an email and I can prepare you a menu of selections, or it's something, we can file away if it just happens to be a topic we haven't touched on yet at the Native Learning Center. We hope you can check out our other upcoming events. We post about them to our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and our Twitter. If you are a podcast listener, we have an in-house produced podcast, the Hope a Thing, a Native American podcast, and you can listen to that wherever you listen to your podcasts. Or if you prefer to actually watch the videos with our special guests, we do record the interviews and the video goes onto our YouTube channel as well. That's in a separate playlist, just says Hope a Thing, a Native American podcast for that one. But otherwise, that is all we have for you folks. Remember to check out the courses section and open up the full leadership course because this was the 6th installment so far. So I'll post the recording tomorrow morning. But there are 5 others for you to check out and go through. You can see the slides as well as all of the recordings right here on the learning platform. But I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their day. Thank you again so much, Will. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording, but I'm going to leave the webinar room open so that y'all have access to the links in the chat as well as those that are in the shared notes section.